do the least popular songs by the most popular artists sound like? My methodology for this was looking at the artists with the 10 most monthly listeners on Spotify as of March 2026, and then scrolling down on a different website to see their least listened to song. Now, even though I don't use Spotify anymore, I figured this was a good way to pick out like 10 popular artists, and they do have a lot of data, so... Now, is this methodology kind of flawed to figure out the least popular song? I mean, yeah, since there's probably a bunch of songs they've never released to streaming services and whatnot, but it's what we got, we roll. Now, I realized what I would actually count as the least listened to song is kind of difficult, because I didn't want to include things like remixes or demos or instrumentals or any sort of other variations of their more popular songs. I also decided to not talk about interludes just because, you know, there's not much to talk about there, and that they had to be the primary artist, not just a feature. So if you disagree with any of my methodology, I don't know, do your own work, I guess. Also, just so we're clear on my level of familiarity with these artists, like, I've heard the hits, but I haven't done a deep discography dive onto any of them, so this should be pretty new territory for me. So, with all that out of the way, let's get into it, see if I can find any hidden gems, or if these are the least listened to for a reason. When I'm old and crazy, will you still call me baby? First up, with 129 million monthly listeners, is Bruno Mars. Insert joke about Spotify revenue not being able to pay off gambling debts. His least popular song that I'll be talking about is called Old and Crazy. Now, it's listed at 111th out of all the songs he's on, but everything below that is a feature, remix, or instrumental, so just so we know, like, every song going forward is gonna be like that, pretty much. This song is from his album Unorthodox Jukebox, released in 2012, but specifically the deluxe edition. Now, once again, even though I'm not listening to these on Spotify, from what I can tell, it's been removed from there and every single streaming service. Yeah, thankfully there's a YouTube video. It only has 363,000 listens on Spotify, and it's kind of not a mystery why, the whole being removed thing. So getting into the song itself, you know, first thing listening to it, I'm like, whoa, this is not at all what I was expecting from a Bruno Mars song.
Will you still call me baby when I'm old and crazy?
In fact, if I was just listening to it on its own with no information about it, I would not have guessed that it was by Bruno Mars. Now, part of this is due to the fact that it features Esperanza Spalding, who's doing a duet with Bruno Mars, and the first time I listened through it, I genuinely didn't realize that Bruno Mars was singing for most of the track. I thought it was just her the whole time. Like, their voices just kind of flow into one another and sound pretty similar, at least to me, so maybe I've got something wrong with my ability to distinguish voices.
Pretty when my hair's gray. Will you still call me baby when I'm old and crazy?
This song is kind of like a nice 1920s jazzy aesthetic, or I don't know if you can use aesthetic for its sound, jazzy vibe. You know, I could like see us playing in the background of like some kind of Great Gatsby-esque movie. You know, background of a bar. It's got a real fun, upbeat vibe. The lyrics I don't have too much to say about. Pretty repetitive, talking about being old and crazy and whatnot. But yeah, pretty good vocal performance. Pretty good vocal performances from both of them. Yeah, this was a pretty fun song. I'd give it a listen. Some more information on the song. It's about a couple asking if they'll still love each other even when they're old and crazy. Jeff Basker, one of the writers, said it was meant to evoke a 1920s Paris bar, so hey, I got the decade right. The song is produced by the Smeezingtons, who are Bruno Mars, Philip Lawrence, and Ari Levine. And if this video actually reaches people, I'm sure someone's gonna be like, what, you don't know about the Smeezingtons? This guy doesn't know about the Smeezingtons over here. And having spent a bit more time with it, I'd say this is probably my favorite Bruno Mars song. Although, you know, I don't really listen to Bruno Mars, but still. Secondly, who I thought had the most monthly listeners, it's Bad Bunny with 120 million monthly listeners. The least listened to song that met my criteria is called Una Velita and was released as a single in 2024. Definitely one of the more popular songs we'll be talking about, as it has over 50 million plays. Entiendo un poco español, pero no es mi lengua primera. I'm bringing it up just so, like, I can't really comment on the lyrics themselves, but he does have a nice vocal performance in the song. It starts out as kind of like a dark and heavy tone. There's this choir chanting in Spanish, but I was really sold when the percussion comes in. I don't know, well, I guess it starts out percussion, but whenever this instrument comes in, I don't know what it is, but I was hooked on the song once I first heard that. But yeah, the songs definitely have a much darker tone than what I've heard from Bad Bunny. I guess it should be expected that their least popular songs don't sound like their most popular ones. I do enjoy songs that have like kind of a darker and heavier vibe. Even though I feel like it's less upbeat and energetic, I feel like it still has a pretty fast tempo. Again, I'm not a trained musician though, so I could be like, no, the tempo isn't that fast, you dolt. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it has a really nice build throughout the song, and it kind of comes all together towards the end. There's like this like thunder crack sound. You can hear some rain drizzling in the background. It's overall just a really nice song. Pretty much the only reason I can think of for this being the least listened to is just because of recency, and I guess maybe because it's on a single. I really like this one, if you couldn't tell. Sometimes I'm not great expressing why I enjoy a song.
Una Velita translates to a little candle, which is in reference to a candle he lit during Hurricane Maria, which in 2017 caused massive destruction in the Caribbean, particularly Puerto Rico, and was the deadliest natural disaster in the island's history, with an estimated 5,000 dead. The lyrics also explore frustrations with being abandoned by the US government. The first time listening to these songs, I was going in with little context, and now looking back on it, I feel like I was maybe talking about this with too much enthusiasm. I don't know if that's the right word. But now, after, looking at translated lyrics and learning the context of this song, I feel like, I don't know, it definitely changed the way I listen to it. But I'd still say it is a good song. I am still standing by that.
I've been manipulated 100 times, but
For The Weeknd's least popular song, it was listed at 222 out of 321 songs. So I realized that with popular artists having so many remixes, this is gonna be extra flawed, but whatever, we roll. So the least played song by My Criteria is called Take Me Back off the album The Idol, Episode 3, music from the HBO original series. I wonder how many of you were just like flashbang with the memory that show even exists. Because, yeah, I forgot the name of it. When I was looking through and saw that I'd be looking for a song from The Weeknd, I was like, is it going to be from that terrible show he made? Yes. I also completely forgot the name of the show before looking into this. If you don't know what The Idol is, you can probably find, like, hundreds of videos on YouTube, like, tearing into it. Just know that The Weeknd was involved in making it, and it's bad. So getting into it, I'm sure I'm missing a lot of context from the show, but also, who cares? So I think I can figure it out. I would assume he has just been left, and that he wants to be taken back, based on the amount of times he says, take me back, which is a lot.
take me back, 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 take me back,
After listening to Bad Bunny's song, I was like, dang, am I gonna find like a bunch of songs I like? And then I listened to this one and was like, okay, no, this is more in line with what I was expecting. I guess there's like nothing like technically wrong with it. It's not like, ooh, there's like a weird off-key instrument here. Like, oh, his singing doesn't sound too bad. It's like, it's a good vocal performance. It's just very lackluster. Like, I would not be able to guess that this guy has made like some of the most popular songs of all time. But, you know, we can't all make hits all the time. So, who am I to judge? Who do you think you are? I am. I'm judging it right now. Not good. I mean, it does make sense that it would sound like a soundtrack, as it is the soundtrack to a show, but like, man, it's just like really bland overall. I can understand why they left you, dude. When listening to this one, I was like wondering, who else is listening to the Idol soundtrack of their own volition? Not just like watching the show, but like, I'm gonna go out of my way to listen to this. One final note I have written down is that there was a neat guitar riff at the end, and I don't remember that, so I'll just take Past Me's word for it.
The thing about repetition is that if you don't like it the first time, you ain't gonna like it the 18th time. I guess this is where I would give more context on a song, but just look up the Idol if you want to know more, because that's like a whole thing on its own.
Next up is Rihanna, whose least listened to song is called Haunted, which was featured on her album Good Girl Gone Bad from 2007. But specifically the Japanese edition bonus tracks as the 14th and final song. Once again, not a mystery as to why it's the least listened to, as I would assume it's maybe region locked on streaming services, but yeah, you can also listen to it on Def Jam Sessions Volume 1. And I believe this is the least listened to song I'll be talking about with only 269,000 plays. The song's called Haunted, and you know, like the lyrics, the vocal performance, and the instrumental all combined together form like a really cohesive theme. It does sound pretty eerie in my opinion. Well, they're not like eerie. I wouldn't like expect to find this at like a haunted house, but like it does have like kind of a little bit of spookiness. It's very cohesive. You know, I mean, it's not literally talking about ghosts. I didn't analyze the lyrics super in depth, but I believe, you know, it's talking about like the ghosts of past relationships, more of a metaphor. But you know, still's got like a little spooky violin back there. This was a good song. Not my favorite I've listened to so far, but pretty good song structure, I guess. You know, it's got nice choruses, nice verses. You know, a song's good when I'm talking about the way it's set up. This is one that I wouldn't expect would be one of Rihanna's more popular ones, even if it didn't have like the weird regionality lock thing. But I'd give it a listen if you want to, but I probably wouldn't listen to it on my own outside of this project afterwards, so yeah.
The additional information I could find on this song is that it's about feeling frustrated with a partner who's stuck thinking about a past relationship. Semi-related, I found this post on Reddit where the original post is deleted, but it seemed to have something to do with being haunted by Rihanna. Not by this song, though, just in general.
McCavity's a mystery cat.
Our next song is from Taylor Swift, and once again, there is no mystery as to why it's the least listened to, as it's McCavity from the motion picture soundtrack Cats, off the album Cats, Highlights from the Motion Picture Soundtrack, which you may recall being released in December of 2019. Didn't have to scroll through nearly as many remixes for this one, but it still has a decent amount of plays with 4.3 million. Now, I have not seen Cats, and I do not plan on seeing Cats. So once again, I'll be missing some context, but I think it's funnier this way. So my first note here is, it's 5 minutes long, dear God. And then my next note is, I hate that it kind of sounds like Pikmin music, because I like Pikmin music, and I'm getting a little bit of Pikmin music vibes from that. I was kind of able to figure out the context of the song, you know, that McCavity is some kind of dangerous criminal cat based on all the lyrics and whatnot. I mean, I guess it does have like a very criminal cat, like doo-doo, doo-doo, time to commit some crime type beat, if that makes sense. You know, it works for what it is, I guess. Listening to this is probably one of the few things better when it's separated from the original work, because I don't have to see the cats when I listen to it. Breaks human laws. Yeah, man, he's a cat. At one point, I think I heard the name Mungo Jerry in there, which, like, the Summertime guys?
I might mention Mungo Jerry.
Okay, was the cat named after the band? Or the band named after the thing from Cats? I don't know when the original Cats play was written. Or is it just like a complete coincidence that there's two things named Mungo Jerry? Probably not. I don't know why this stuck out to me so much, it just did. This song is like, there's nothing wrong with the vocals. I guess there's nothing wrong with the lyrics. It's like a little bit cringe, but I mean, it is a good song for conveying a criminal mischief cat. It's just that, why? I don't really want to listen to a song about conveying a criminal mischief cat. Like, all the other songs I listened, well, most of the other songs I listened to at least twice, just for the sake of being thorough, I guess. Not this one. I don't want to listen to this one again, so. This song is just tainted by the fact that it's associated with cats, though. I feel like this is very, like, kind of cringe, outdated humor, be like, I'm dunking on Cats. But it's not like Cats ever came back, bro.
So apparently McCavity is the main antagonist of the musical, and was played by Idris Elba in the movie. And he has magic powers. Apparently I know even less about Cats than I thought I did. As for Mungo Jerry, it's one word. The original poem they were featured in was published in 1939, and yes, the band is named after them.
Vulnerable. Naked.
Next up, Justin Bieber with the song Story of God off his album Swag 2, released in 2025. Another one that's probably the least listened to due to recency, but again, it was on a whole album and it's the least listened to out of that, so must be a reason for that. This one might be the one I dreaded most, seeing that it was 7 minutes long. Just looking at some of my notes here, first thing I wrote down, I can't believe I'm going to listen to this. This is another song that I did not want to listen to through a second time. It's just him giving a church sermon over like background piano music, and when I first listened through it, I was like, oh, is this maybe just like an intro to the song? It's like, no, this is the whole song, is Justin Bieber telling the story of Adam and Eve from the perspective of Adam. But he sounds like really disinterested throughout. Like, I have nothing wrong with that concept as a whole, but it's just like a very, I feel like a very uninspired way of going about it. Although there are some very like interesting line reads. I don't, you wouldn't call it line read for a song, but
Did you eat the fruit?
But this is a song in that there is a song playing in the background that he is talking over.
Before the first shadow touched our hearts, there was only light.
Maybe disinterested isn't the right word for it, but he does it, there's just not a lot of, it's not monotone. But it feels like he's doing a bad play, if that makes sense. Some other notes I took. Taste the explosion in your mouth.
Everywhere you look, taste the explosion in your mouth.
Moaning in the background.
It means nothing to us.
Oh God, there's 5 minutes left. I don't have anything to say about the instrumental. I guess it's what you'd expect from this, maybe? I don't know. And at the end I wrote, certainly was an experience. It was a song that I listened to. Would I recommend listening to this song? Maybe. It is certainly the most unique out of the songs I listened to. I don't know if Justin Bieber's in his like born again Christian phase. Like, I don't know if the whole album is like this either, considering this is the only song I heard off of it. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch of context from the album, but maybe listen to a little bit of it, just so you can get an idea.
Can't you see you're not making Christianity better? You're just making rock and roll worse.
Most of what I could find on the song was what I gathered from listening to it, story of Adam and Eve, etc. However, I also learned that it is song number 23 on an album with 44 songs. The majority of everything else talking about this song is just lapping it up.
Once again, we have another region lock song, this time from Lady Gaga, and the song being Again Again, which was released on the Japanese and UK versions of the album The Fame Monster. Weird that a song has been specific to a Japanese edition of a deluxe album twice now. This is one I could see that, like, even though I don't really like this one, I could see other people enjoying this, but this is another case of, even if there wasn't, like, weird region lock stuff, this would not be her most popular song by far. I don't have too much to say about it. It does just kind of sound like a Lady Gaga B-side, like, here's another track. I don't know. Maybe that's too harsh. I at least like the chorus better than the first verse in terms of lyrics. I did write down one lyric I found interesting. When you're round, I lose myself in your mouth.
I lose myself inside your mouth.
This one, I didn't really have any particularly strong reaction to it either way. It's another one that's just kind of bland. I don't know, bland, but I feel like I'm struggling to hit a word count right now, even though it's my YouTube video, and I don't need to hit a word count for this. What am I doing?
I consulted Gagapedia for more information on this song and learned that it's a tribute to the Beatles song, Oh Darling. While the lyrics might not be the most salacious, genius annotators just have such a way with words. Anyway, she's cheating on her boyfriend with a past lover again.
At the bottom of the list for Coldplay was just an earth emoji, and it is a song, but it is also an interlude, so moving on to the song I'm actually going to talk about, A Spell, A Rebel Yell, which was released as a B-side to the single Violet Hill. Yet another one that's probably unpopular due to, like, weird availability, but it's not region locked at least. The instrumental on this one is, like, it's kind of vibey, which is, like, terrible way to describe something, but it has, like, a very, I don't know if lo-fi is the right word for it. Actually, I would not say lo-fi is the right word for it, but it has a little bit of a sci-fi kind of twinge to it, if that makes sense. Like, I could see it playing in the background of, like, a planetarium, for example. I will say the lyrics are a bit quiet compared to the instrumentals, and are a bit, like, muffled, kind of hard to hear what he's saying sometimes. There aren't too much to say about that anyway, so I feel like it makes for decent background noise if I was, like, doing something else. Kind of a video game music vibe to it, which could be an insult. A little bit of an insult. I mean, there's good video game music out there, but it is a little bit, like, meant to be in the background and not stand out, so honestly, I might prefer this song as an instrumental. Another one I couldn't see becoming that popular even without the weird availability.
Originally, the song was released online as a free download. When promoting it, Chris Martin contacted NME to tell them, I have just written this song, and it's the perfect song. NME readers are gonna love it. We have to get it out there. I feel like that's such a funny thing to say about, like, any song, just in general, but especially for it to then be one of your least listened to. Then when NME was ranking all the Coldplay songs a few years later, it was rated at 130th out of 142.
I'm overheated. Can't be defeated.
I was pretty curious about what Billie Eilish's least popular song would sound like, as she definitely has the smallest discography out of anyone I'm talking about in this video. Once again, her actual least listened to was an interlude that was 7 exclamation points or mispronounced. Ah! The actual song we'll be talking about is called Overheated off her 2021 album Happier Than Ever. This is by far the most popular song we'll be talking about here, as it has a mere 145 million plays. Side note, I remember freshman year of college learning that Billie Eilish was younger than me, and I was just kind of like, oh. A little bit of a quarter-life crisis there. What do you mean? I'm not one of the 10 most popular artists? That means my life is over. My life is over, but for different reasons. The first note I have written down just says bubble. This is another song that, once again, it has kind of like a bit of a darker, heavier tone. Take a drink every time I say that in this video, but I need to whip out a thesaurus, I guess. But yeah, once again, like, the tone's a bit lower, but I don't know. But that's a little bit more in line with Billie Eilish. In fact, I'd say this is probably the most in line with the rest of the stuff I've heard from any of these artists. You know, it's got like her typical, like, kind of soft, whispery vocals, like. That wasn't a good impression, but you've probably heard a Billie Eilish song before.
I'm photographing.
There's a little bit of juxtaposition between that and the background, because I feel like the background is kind of a bit of, like, a bit more upbeat, like little doot 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 doot. I cannot remember the rhythm, even though I just listened to it. Pretty solid song, not too much home to write about. Not too. What? It definitely does sound like a typical Billie Eilish song, but it's missing some of that like wow factor that like some of her big hits have. So I wouldn't describe this one as a banger, but yeah, I'd say it's still a good song. This one feels the most like, well, she's bound to have one song that's least listened to, just by the nature of how rankings work, you know?
The title of the song, Overheated, is in reference to her feelings with being overwhelmed by the paparazzi and the expectations and perceptions of being famous.
Last, but maybe least, is Drake. Now, before I listened to any of the songs, I figured that Drake was going to have the worst song of the ones I listened to, because I know he's had some stinkers. But then I thought about it, and I was like, well, his least listened to song wouldn't necessarily be his worst song. That's not what this video is about, actually. Because more people are probably going to listen to, like, his more disliked songs just out of, like, listening to be like, whoa, I can't believe he made this.
Long story short, I messed up. The song I'll be talking about here is Heat of the Moment off his 2019 album Care Package. Another one I saw was going to be 5 minutes long. I'm like, oh, here we go. And it starts out with like a boomer-ass complaint talking about kids not reading books.
All the school kids are so sick of books and learning.
And this kind of bugs me when people are like, kids don't play outside anymore. It's like, the only reason you say that is because you don't go outside. I see kids riding their bikes in my neighborhood all the time. But he's like trying to be all sincere at the beginning, and I just cannot take him seriously with the beat.
They just wanna be.
This is bubble derogatory. You know, eventually get to the chorus, it's pretty underwhelming. I don't know, not too much to say about there. Then he says something about teens, which, you know.
I wish we had met when I was in my teens.
I can't really nail down what my problem is with his vocals. I feel like it's a little bit too talk-singy for me. Like, I'm not a big fan of that in general, where, you know, where artists aren't quite singing, they're more just kind of like talking a little bit melodically. And again, I just cannot get past the beat. Then for the last third of the song, it's just like a muffled phone call. I can understand why this is least listened to, because, you know, we got whack-ass beat, kind of cringe lyrics, and then the last third just adds nothing to the song.
Yeah, I said it earlier. Not the worst songs, but the least popular. And if we learn anything at that, the least popular songs just often, I don't have too much to say about them. I guess it makes sense that the least listened to wouldn't always have the most to say, but I still kind of enjoyed making this. I did find a couple hidden gems. Now I'm sure you're curious how I rank the artists based on how much I enjoyed their least listened to song. Number 10, Justin Bieber. Number 9, Taylor Swift. Number 8, The Weeknd. Number 7, Drake. Number 6, Lady Gaga. Number 5, Coldplay. 4th, Rihanna. 3rd, Billie Eilish. 2nd, Bruno Mars. And in 1st, Bad Bunny. I would say I only found one song that I really liked, that being the Bad Bunny one. It's the only one I've listened to, like, outside of this project, just on its own. I did also like the Bruno Mars one. I might have put it on a playlist if it was possible to do that. Thanks for watching. I really hope you like this video, as this is a big departure from what I usually do, considering, well, I made a whole separate channel for it. But if you want to see the other stuff I do, the links for all that will be in the description, and maybe I'll continue doing this series. I could probably milk this for a while. Subscribe right now and you'll be one of the elite. And that's in italics, by the way.